So, welcome to a taste of work in the light. I want to continue our discussion about the ecosystem of God's culture. Now, there are 11 components of that ecosystem listed in Psalm 23 that was written by King David of the Bible. So, today we're going to look at the role of a shepherd leader's presence, protection, and direction. David sings, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil because, well, you are with me, and your rod and your staff, they comfort me." So David's shepherd is the Lord. David makes it clear that his journey is through the valley of shadowy death and not into the shadowy valley. And he's not alone, that the Lord, his shepherd, is actually with him. So the shepherd's leader's presence during times of crisis due to workload, deadlines, meeting goals, satisfying the demands of clients, or even personal events completely unrelated to work and place stress on your team or your employees or coworkers that might compromise desired outcomes. Shepherd leaders invest the time and they invest their presence into being aware of the threats to the project and are willing to bring support required to weather the journey through any shadowy valley you have in the business world. After the studio I worked at experienced the shock of the founder's death and then the horror of a mass shooting, the partners spent well over a year trying to determine how best to now lead the studio. And during that time, leadership was at a minimum, and the studio's creativity and production probably wasn't at its peak performance yet, and even some of the staff left. When the leadership team was able to re-engage again, when they had it all together, the studio just flourished. It was better probably than it ever had been. An active and supportive presence is key to shepherd leadership. Now, David also mentions two tools of the shepherd's trade that brought comfort to him. It was the rod and then the staff. So, what are those, and how do they relate to present day shepherd leadership in the workplace? Well, the rod was a baseball sized club that the shepherd used to defend his sheep against predators, against threats. Now, I'm not saying you take a baseball bat to work. No, it's just a figure of speech, and try to place it into the context. It may look more like your positional authority as a leader. So, when dealing with external predators, including any factors or persons who are threatening the desired outcomes or goals of your employees or team, you may have to pick up your rod to your positional authority to make a decision to take a direct step. Internally, you may need to grab somebody, reprimand them. Maybe need to retrain them, and maybe you need to terminate them if they just are not a fit. External threats, your rod may be choosing new vendors because the one you have is not reputable, or a new service provider because the one you currently have does not provide the services they said they were going to provide. Or maybe you have to take legal action against a competitor for unfair trade practices. All of these may be part and parcel to what you would call your rod. Now, the staff, on the other hand, was used by the shepherd to guide and to direct his flock. It wasn't a punitive thing at all. It extended his reach, keeping his sheep on the right path or within the boundaries of his own pasture. So, at work, the boundaries of your pasture might be your values, it may be your goals, it may be your mission statement, it may be your vision statement. The staff, again, was not punitive, it was for direction. The staff was also used by the shepherd as a line of sight to kind of claim their sheep, to make sure that their sheep were following him, the shepherd, and not another shepherd. Now, in business, for us, especially in the creative industry, it was very easy for our sheep or our designers to get confused because partners were always coming in giving their 2 cents of what they thought was a creative solution to whatever we were working on. Well, when I used an exercise my staff, it allowed my designers to know that at this project they were working for me and the direction would come from me and their support would come from me. And it just simplified and clarified things. So when the shepherd leader's presence is accompanied by the responsibilities also pictured in the rod and the staff. In a real shepherd's world, that makes for sheep who flourish, who they grow and they multiply and they just create lots of wool. In the workplace, when the shepherd leader brings his presence or her presence and the responsibilities of direction and protection, that means that their workplace will flourish, that their employees will flourish, that they will accomplish the things, the goals that you're intending, and accomplish the projects that need to be done, and the creativity hopefully would be even better than they would be without your presence, without your protection, and without your guidance. So, watch your teams, your employees flourish when you bring your presence, your protection, and your direction to the workplace. And thanks again for listening to another taste of Work in the Light. And until next time, well, work in the light.